Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're in the kitchen doing another all-time fall favorite, sweet potato pie. You can do this with sweet potato or pumpkin. It's pretty much the exact same recipe, only pumpkin's going to be not quite as sweet as sweet potato. Personally, I prefer sweet potato. Pumpkin's also really good. It's more traditional, I guess. But we're also going to do this video a little bit differently. So let's get going. As you can see on the counter here, I've got 3 pretty good sized sweet potatoes, and it's going to take about an hour for these to roast until they're soft. Basically what we've done is we've just washed these off, and we're going to put them on some aluminum foil so that we don't have to clean all the sticky stuff up that's going to come off these onto the tray. It's just going to go onto the aluminum foil. So we're going to take them whole in the skin and roast them for about an hour, and that's going to give us an hour to get together the rest of our ingredients. So here we go. We're going to put them in the oven that's preheated at 400 degrees. And we're going to check on them in about 45 minutes. Alright, just as promised, while the sweet potatoes are roasting off, we got a little time. So we got together 2 large eggs. Typically I would get half a teaspoon of dried ginger, but as soon as I got home from the store I realized that I didn't have any more dried ginger. So I just went with fresh ginger, and what I've done here is I've peeled it and I've sliced it against the grain, just like you would cut a steak, so that we have short strands so that they'll blend up very easily. And I've got half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg and a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then I've got 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. And basically, whenever the sweet potatoes come out, we're going to let them cool for just a second and take the outsides off, and then we're going to put all this in the blender together, and we're going to end up with a smooth, rich sweet potato puree. And the egg is what's going to make it set and get that pie consistency. And the ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg is what's going to give it that flavor. The sweetened condensed milk is going to make it sweet and rich throughout. Alright guys, so we're looking in the oven now. It's actually been a little bit longer than I thought. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes now, and you can see the juices starting to come out of the sweet potato and all the sugar. They're soft to the touch, and if you poke them with a paper clip or a cake tester, they're finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn the oven off, and we're going to pull them out and let them cool down for a little while. Alright guys, these sweet potatoes are still really hot, but they're to the point now to where we can touch them and kind of pull them apart a little bit. So as you notice, now that it's cooked, you see all the steam rolling out there, you can definitely tell it's hot. So as you noticed, now that they're cooked, the outsides kind of peel right off. And what we're trying to do is put the meaty potato part, the inside, into the blender here. And that's how we're going to end up with our sweet potato puree for our pie. You want to make sure you don't get any of the little end pieces in there, the little stiff bits, and you want to make sure you don't get much of the peel in there. But once you got that in there, you can just throw it in there, and if you notice how it kind of collapses once it goes in there, that's just because it's that soft. And that's going to help us. The softer it is, the easier it's going to blend, the smoother we're going to get our pie. Alright, so there we have it. We have our sweet potatoes that are going to make the puree. And we may need to add a little bit of water to this as we go, but we'll find out here in just a second. Alright, so we take the lid off and look down in there. We can see that the mixture is nice and thick. It's also nice and smooth. So now what we're going to do is we want to make sure we only have about 2 cups in there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the rest of this down to where we only have 2 cups. Alright, so I removed a little bit from the Vitamix, and now as you can see, it's nice and smooth. It's nice and smooth, and we got exactly 2 cups in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the ginger to it first, because we need to make sure that that ginger gets chopped really, really smooth, okay? And then that would be a good time to go ahead and add in our sweetened condensed milk, because it's going to give it that extra volume that we need, and it's going to thin it out just a touch, and that's also going to help it get really, really smooth in there, okay? We're going to blend it for just a second and see where that leaves us. Alright, now that it's nice and smooth and going into itself, you can see the color's a lot lighter, and if you taste that, now it's sweet and rich. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to mix those spices together a little bit. We're going to go right in the center, down into the mix. We're going to turn it on so that they go all the way throughout. And that completes the filling once you've added the egg. Alright guys, so now you can see down in here, we've got this nice loose filling. It's not super loose, but it's loose enough that you can pour it. You can tell that it's smooth. And we're just going to fill this pie crust. I like to go ahead and put mine onto a tray, especially since I already have one out and hot that we just roasted the sweet potatoes on. So I might as well, just in case anything crazy happens. And we're just going to fill it up, kind of roughly smooth it off. It doesn't have to be perfect because that's just the way it is. And then we're going to go right back into the oven. It's still at 400 degrees. We're going to go into the oven for 15 minutes, and then we're going to turn the oven down to 350. So bear with me. We'll see you in 15 minutes. Alright guys, so it's been 30 minutes as I mentioned, and we went ahead and dropped the heat on the oven, but if you look in there you can see how it's starting to form that crust on top of the pie filling itself, and we're starting to take just a touch of color on the crust itself. 30 minutes at 350 and then we'll check it. Alright guys, so the time is up and we're going to look in here at the pie, and if you notice it has swollen up really big, and that's just because the egg in there is expanding. So what we're going to do, if you notice, you literally pull it out and you can see it immediately begin to fall. So that's what we're hoping for, and we're hoping that it falls quite a bit more as it cools off a little bit. We'll see here in a few minutes when we come back. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to put a knife in there about an inch from the edge and pull it out. If you notice, the knife's nice and clean, and that tells us that it's done. So as you see, it's still continuing to go down, and it will as it cools off. So we'll come back in a few minutes. Alright guys, as always, thank you very much for watching, and comment below and let me know how your sweet potato or pumpkin pie turns out. Thanks.